Journal for Jordan. This is a movie that came out like Christmas week, I think. I don't really remember. And I went to go watch this. This is not a movie I would have seen, but honestly, I had plans to go do something else today. It didn't pan out, and so I was like, I knew my mom wanted to see this movie, and she is actually the target demographic from this movie. Besides one other audience for this movie, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we both did not like this movie, and this was a movie I would never would have seen, to be honest, if she didn't want to see it, because this movie was not good. First of all, let's okay. So it was a Tuesday. Sure, there's not a lot of people watching movies. Okay, but it was like 1:45 in the afternoon. We walked into the theater. Now I work at a movie theater. Okay, I get that there's not a lot of people watching movies. Totally get that. It's a normal weekday. But there's usually more than a completely empty theater with two people. We walked in, we sat down, and we were both bored out of our minds for this movie. I was sitting there watching this movie, and I thought to myself several times, how long is this movie? Is this movie like 3 hours? After the movie was done, I looked up the runtime. It was 2 hours and 11 minutes. And this movie's awful in the sense that what this movie is about, it's about Jordan. Okay, Jordan is the son of this one lady who had a husband who was in the military, and he died, and he writes him this journal, and it's supposed to help him throughout life. This movie, so there are two demographics for this movie. People like romance movies, because this is very much a romantic type movie, and then black people. And this is a very pandering movie to black people. And I say that because they stick a lot of black names in this movie, but they're very generic black names. Like, I don't know, Denzel Washington produced it. Oh, Michael B. Jordan is the star of it. You know, the most generic people to put, when you have to cast somebody who's black, you cast those people. Not saying those people aren't good. Denzel Washington's not actually in the movie, he just produced it. And that's how some people are aware of this movie. I work in a movie theater, and we'll have questions like of customers being like, I want to see that new Denzel Washington movie. And we're all like, what? There is no new Denzel Washington movie, because they don't recognize that he produced it. You know? So, and he doesn't actually star in it. But I say this movie is really pandering too, because a lot of the dialogue in this movie is very pandering. Like, for example, they walk up to a Lincoln statue, and they say, the one boy goes, you know, he didn't actually free the slaves. The slaves freed themselves. Like, how dumb do you think your audience is? First of all, this is a PG-13 movie. It is not a movie that appeals to teenagers in the slightest. Okay? The only people watching this are adults, and we know this information. We are not that stupid. And the way that is said is just so condescending in the movie. Lines of dialogue like that are very just pandering to a black audience. And, you know, I see black audiences eat shit like this up, and it's just disgusting me. Because it is a very lazy movie, and I would like good movies, whether it's for whites or blacks. It doesn't really matter. I just want a good movie. So and then the other part of this movie, why it's so boring, is it's very generic. You've seen a million movies like this before, and I know people go, well, it's based on a true story. I don't give a shit. It doesn't mean every true story movie needs to be adapted. This is one of those movies that you watch and you're sitting there like, there's nothing interesting here. It's a very paint by numbers movie. Moves very slow. Again, I sat in the theater and thought it was for 3 damn hours. I was not there for 3 hours, but it really felt like 3 hours, and it was just an awful, awful movie. And all the performances were from, you know, like people like Michael B. Jordan. This, you know, saying that he's kind of a generic typecast black actor is not a like discredit to him because he is a terrific actor. You know, for sure he's acted amazing in movies. I love him in the Creed movies, but he's not good here. Not to say he's terrible, like he's just fine, but he's done so much better, and it just hurts seeing him in this movie. I'm like sitting here like, you really are not giving the best performance you could here, and none of the cast of this movie is. It's a movie that's directed very blandly. It just looks fine. Everything you could describe about this movie is fine, other than the pacing and how pandering this movie is to black people, and I would say the script. The script is not fine because the script very much states things in the most obvious way possible. It was just like, it was just a movie I watched. It happened, and I'll never watch it again. And I think, like I said, there is an audience for this movie, but my mom is usually someone who likes stupid romantic stories like this, and she eats it up, and she didn't like it. Black audiences, I don't know. I haven't heard this movie is doing so well. I work in a movie theater as a greeter, so I get to see the amount of people that come through the door for certain movies. And, I also mark off the theaters as ushers clean them so I can make sure I'm letting people into the theaters, and making sure they're all ready to go. I'm not letting people into their movie too early or whatever, right? And I constantly look at Journal for Jordan, and there's maybe like at most 5 people, or it's empty. There are days where that theater is completely empty and there's no one watching that movie. It happens a lot. And this is just one of those movies where that happens. It's not a very good movie. Don't recommend it. There are better movies to see in theaters right now. I know there's not a lot out because it is the month of January, but save your money. Wait.